Hello, America. Hello, nuclear aficionados around the world. Happy New Year. Welcome to Nuclear.com Daily. I'm Steve Schulin of Nuclear.com, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be part of your day. Those of you listening in via podcast or perhaps viewing it on YouTube later, please know that you're welcome and wanted and encouraged to come join in live every Monday through Friday, starting at 12:05 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join in just like a conference call. The telephone number is 724-444-7444. And you'll be asked for a call ID. That's 95348 #. So come one, come all of goodwill to Nuclear.com Daily. I think here in 2014, this radio show and YouTube show will be the only vestige of the nuclear power, nuclear weapons, nuclear science, nuclear technology stuff that's actually associated with Nuclear.com. I've had that domain and doing it as a labor of love for since 1994, since before there was a World Wide Web. I used to run an electronic bulletin board using a graphical interface before there was the first web browser, using the Nuclear.com domain. Firstclass.nuclear.com was or fc.nuclear.com, I forget. But folks from all over the world could come in. It wasn't the web, but it was a really nifty bulletin board. In fact, I liked it. It had a lot more flexibility than the website as far as being able to automatically forward articles of interest. So I kept it running for many years, even after the web took the world by storm. But I've dropped that first class system, and now we have the web only. But it just hadn't been bringing in revenue. I've tried ads and whatnot. It just it wasn't even paying for itself when I had much cheaper hosting than I do now. Heck, with the storage that I have there at Nuclear.com, file storage, and the bandwidth, I'm paying like I don't know, 5 times more than I was last year in doing it. Anyway, so I've decided to convert Nuclear.com into a revenue generating domain, and I've transferred all of the stuff that was at Nuclear.com over to a new URL called nuclearweb.info, and that's where I'll be posting updates. And as far as what Nuclear.com is doing, well, it's been a pleasure in my political activism. I've met some extraordinary people, and one of them is very interested in starting up a way to sell cheap computers that he'll buy by the pallet from leading manufacturers. Computers that work fine, but they may have cosmetic blemishes to them, and he can get them for pennies on the dollar. And heck, I want to be his first customer. I told him. Anyway, he's asked me if we could work out an arrangement where he could use the Nuclear.com domain, where his theme is going to be Nuclear.com. We annihilate the competition in buying computers. So best wishes to my friend Seth, and I've told him yes, I'm delighted at the idea. Hope he sells a ton of them, and I'm going to get a little taste of it. So anyway, neato. I've been shopping the Nuclear.com domain name to the large reactor manufacturers, figuring that any company who wants to be considered the premier nuclear company in the world would see a natural fit for the premier nuclear domain name. But nobody's made an offer that even made me sleep on it to consider it. So anyway, so I'm going to try something different with nuclear.com, but I'm going to continue the nuclear.com daily name. It still has a good brand to it, and maybe I can convince my new partners or my new tenants. I'm not sure what the relationship's going to be. Maybe I can convince them to say, do you want the old nuclear.com? And put a link on there to nuclearweb.info. Anyway, exciting things coming on here in 2014. You see here in the background, I got the Rose Bowl parade on TV today, but I used to do nuclear.com totally out of my home up in Rockville, a few subway stops north of NRC headquarters. But I moved down here to North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I've set up an office here because our new home, heck, there just isn't a good spot to work from home in our new home. And this is just within walking distance of my house. I often bring the dog up here in the morning times anyway. And we get his walk in, and I get my walk in, little exercise. I don't mind being on TV. I've lost a little bit of weight here. Walking the dog has really helped. All right, well, let's take a look at the news today, the nuclear news on the front pages, in anticipation of 2014 being an extraordinary year, hopefully in a good way. Front page news. Let's start off with a heartwarming story from a Pennsylvania newspaper. It's actually a reprint of a story out of the Casper, Wyoming Star Tribune. It's a little teaser there on the front page. You see it here on YouTube. I've got it circled in red. A teaser to a page 10 story, and here's how they describe it. For young readers, teens speak. A teen whose nuclear fusion reactor was disqualified from a science fair reflects on his past year of unexpected fame. Well, that caught my attention. And they have the article there at the Pennsylvania newspaper site, the Indiana Gazette. And their website is indianagazette.com. I found it on newseum.org, and I guess I ought to write them a little note saying that their link to the website says go to Indiana Gazette and they use a different suffix instead of .com. And that's wrong. Anyway, disqualified teen who built reactor moves on is the title. Dateline, Casper, Wyoming, December 31st, 2013. Few people outside of Conrad Farnsworth's small northeast Wyoming town knew about his science. Fewer than 200 people had watched a video proving he was one of only 15 high school students in the world to successfully create a nuclear fusion reactor. Then a classmate told a reporter about his feat. A story ran in the Casper Star Tribune back in February, detailing Farnsworth's reactor and his penchant for making everything from automatic potato guns to glow-in-the-dark ties. His YouTube views soared. His story ran on Fox News, the Huffington Post, and Business Insider. State Representative Hans Hunt, Republican of Newcastle, lauded Conrad's achievement on the floor of the State House of Representatives. Then, the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair kicked him out for a rules violation. He was devastated, and his story grew larger, almost 74,000 page views. Another story in the Huffington Post and on Fox News, the Colbert Report, even called Farnsworth to talk about a possible appearance. Reflecting on the past year from outside his lab at South Dakota School of Mines, Farnsworth said the fame was unexpected and the outcome exactly what was meant to be. About 1 year ago, Farnsworth hoped to go to MIT and achieve honors at the International Science Fair with his reactor. Well, he didn't make it into MIT, and on May 14th, one day into the Intel Science Fair in Arizona, he was disqualified. He had participated in too many science fairs in the wrong order. Students are only allowed to go to one qualifying regional fair and then one qualifying state fair. The rule keeps students from jumping from one fair to another until he or she qualifies. Newcastle competitors went to the Wyoming State Science Fair in Laramie and then went to South Dakota's Regional Science Fair since it was less than 100 miles away. Conrad qualified in South Dakota but not in Laramie. His teacher said they didn't know about the rule. Since May, the International Science Fair has not changed its stance on order or number of fairs, said Michelle Glidden, Director of Science and Education Programs for the Society for Science and the Public, the organization that runs the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. But it gave the Wyoming State Science Fair more spots for students to use to qualify for the International Fair. We granted those extra spots so they could better represent the students from Wyoming, Glidden said. Well, any change is too late for Farnsworth's science fair future. He graduated from high school. Shortly after the disqualification, it was his last fair competition. He's not bitter or disappointed anymore. I've been thinking on it a lot and praying on it. And the more I do, the more I realize this is where I was supposed to be. I've come to terms, and the main thing I've taken away is let it be. His passion for science hasn't changed. His fusion reactor, the one he built in his dad's shed on a hill outside of Newcastle, is now resting in a formal lab at the School of Mines. He has his permits from Health and Safety, but still needs a radiation permit from the university before he can start working on it again. It's no longer just a potential hazard for him. He's also looking at non-destructive evaluation with ultrasound machines and doing a little fractal research. He built a collapsible drone on a 3D printer recently. It didn't fly, but it collapsed. He will pursue a working prototype in 2014, and when he's done, Farnsworth has dozens of other projects waiting. God bless him. Glad to see inventive young folks. All right, let's see. There were a couple of stories on Iran. We'll get to them last. Another United States story, this one out of the Knoxville News Sentinel of Tennessee, dealing with the Oak Ridge project. Federal officials stand firm on costly uranium processing facility. Reported price tag on the facility is ballooning. And it says the official cost range for the new production facility at the Y-12 nuclear weapons plant in Oak Ridge remains at between $4.2 billion to $6.5 billion. But others have suggested the price tag for the facility could go far beyond that. An assessment by the Defense Department's CAPE group, that's Cost Assessment and Program Evaluation group, reportedly estimated that the cost of UPS is in the $10 billion to $12 billion range. That CAPE assessment has not been released publicly, but it has been reported on by folks who've talked with CAPE staff, I guess. All right, Pakistan. The Dawn newspaper top stories about new nuclear build. Let's see here. Building of new end plant to get dome tomorrow. Dateline Islamabad. The containment building of the fourth reactor at the Chasma nuclear power complex would get its dome on Thursday, marking the completion of major civil works at the unit. The emplacement of the 180-ton steel dome is a significant milestone in the installation of the reactor, an official at the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission said on Tuesday. Chasma IV, as it is commonly known, is being built in collaboration with Chinese firms. ... I forget whether that Chasma in Pakistan, they're building like a fourth unit at a plutonium reactor, which is not a commercial reactor. I don't recall the names of them. Sorry. I'm not sure what kind of reactor this is. When they talk about civil works, it sounds like they're emphasizing the civilian nature of the reactor. All right. Iran. Washington Times rightfully calls Iran one of the 10 stories to watch in 2014. Up there above the fold in their front page today on New Year's Day. Out of Israel, the English language Haaretz newspaper, the top story spanning the whole front page. Iran says nuclear deal with world powers to be implemented in late January. And they also have a story about 12 world events that most impacted Israel in 2013. The top 3 involved nuclear. The top story was Charming Rouhani, referring to the new Iranian president, Rouhani. The second was the Kerry choice, referring to U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, with the nuclear implications of that choice. And third, American isolationism, and they talk about the credibility of any future American threat to intervene militarily against Iran's nuclear program. So that's the front pages today. Hope you have a delightful rest of the New Year's Day, rest of the week, rest of the 2014. Hard to believe. And those of you in the nuclear biz, best wishes. Make it another safe one, my friends. This is Steve Schulin signing off for Nuclear.com Daily.